Dear audience, welcome to our think tank session, Smart and Sustainable Buildings, where we will discuss about the current situation. And just a moment. Yeah, the current situation, the challenges and opportunities in the field of smart and sustainable, as well as about solutions. For example, how can we work together and support each other in this difficult times? And our goal for today is to define together with you where the challenges and the opportunities lie and derive concrete suggestions, measures for the industry. My name is Nathanie Ursinus-Vasiliadis, and I am a digital business manager at DREES SOMMER. And as such, as I am responsible for the trend and startup scouting at DREES SOMMER, as well as managing various innovation projects. And I am currently dialing in from our innovation hub in Stuttgart. And together with my colleague Benedikt Scholler, I will be your host for this session.
Yeah, hello. Also from my side, I think you can't see my face now, but you will see later. Welcome. I'm a senior manager at DREES SOMMER, and I'm situated in the Berlin office. And my field of activity is smart and sustainable building design and management, and also energy design and management. So I'm the expert from DREES SOMMER today for this session.
Yeah, thank you, Benedikt. So we also have the honor to have our finalists with us of the 4th PropTech Innovation Award in the category Smart and Sustainable Buildings, joined by 2 further experts of this field. So I will now introduce all of the speakers of this panel. And first of all, I would like to introduce the finalists. ParkHere is the first startup. The startup was founded in 2015, and the technology company specializes in parking solutions, consisting of IoT hardware and software products. ParkHere offers companies, real estate and parking operators a unique solution for efficient and sustainable mobility. And here with us today is Felix Harteneck, CEO of the company. Hi, Felix.
Hi, good afternoon.
Happy to have you. The next finalist is ecoworks, a startup that offers a net zero modernization with industrial prefabrication and modular construction, and they refurbish apartments buildings within a few weeks and modernize buildings, so they generate as much electricity as tenants consume. Here with us today is the co-founder Kristofer Fichtner. Hi, Kristofer. And last but not least, Caala, the PropTech company that offers a software for energetic, ecological, and economical pre-dimensioning and life cycle assessment for building performance, building optimization. Represented today is Caala by Philipp Hollberg, the co-founder and managing director. Hi, Philipp. Hi. Congratulations, first of all, to all of you to be the finalists and also the winners in this category. So my digital applause to you all. And we have 2 additional experts joining us today. Carloin Köllner, Senior Manager Sustainability at Union Investment Real Estate, who is an expert in energy monitoring and management. Hi, Carloin. Hi.
Hello.
And Pablo von den Bosch, board member at Madaster Foundation. Madaster is a global online register for materials and products in the building environment, and they create material passports. Very interesting. Hi, Pablo.
Good afternoon.
So welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you all. We are looking forward to an interesting conversation with you and a constructive talk. And to kick off this session, Benedikt will give us a short impulse to the topic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, let's change to the right slide, please, Nathanie. You have to change the slides. Hopefully this is working. Yeah. So thank you, Nathanie, for the introduction, and also welcome from my side to the Smart and Sustainable Building Workshop. I will just give a short impulse about what we understand about smart and sustainable buildings, or at least give a little bit wrap up for what's happening over the last few months or the last year. So, well, let's start. Yeah, next slide, please. Once upon a time, I will call it, or at least it feels like that. Our kids were on the street fighting for a sustainable future, fighting the climate crisis, pushing the politicians to act. And at the end of 2019, beginning of 22, we had a German climate law, and the EU was introducing its new Green Deal. So it really feels a long time ago, but I think we have to see what's coming up. And when we go 3 months back in February, the building on the right side was officially opened, the Cube Berlin, a digital, sustainable and innovative building. We were part of the design team, and we were very proud at the opening. And we also at DREES SOMMER saw that the market is switching to circular buildings designed by the idea of cradle to cradle, like the building on the left side, the Town Hall of Venlo in the Netherlands. So we had a bright future in front of us, sustainable and digital, and then there was a crisis, or there is still a crisis. And we think a crisis is still also a chance, and perhaps there's another economic crisis on the horizon, but we are totally convinced that the future is still sustainable and digital, and the European Green Deal is the basis for it, transforming the EU's economy into a sustainable future. And so with this Green Deal, we want to go on even if there's a crisis. Next slide, please. So the Green Deal for us is a green revolution which affects all industry branches and sets the right impulse for the investing into a sustainable future. Digitalization plays a key role for it, and major renovation wave is long overdue, is planned also. We will talk about this with ecoworks and Caala later. Green bonds are on the rise, and the circular economy is the solution to protect our environment and nature. So put this all together in some sentences, the Green Deal is the new European growth strategy, which is needed in a crisis to create a sustainable economy, empower future investments, create a circular economy, building up ecosystems for the economy, realize a net zero emission Europe by 2050, and to avoid another crisis, the climate crisis. So what can we do for this, or how can we also learn from crises and set up the next step for it? We think it's ecosystems is the answer, and we heard it before in the introduction from Union Investment Real Estate, that they're also building up an ecosystem, and we are also creating our own ecosystem the last year, Creators, for the real estate industry. It brings together all market players of the real estate industry, like universities, startups, small entrepreneurs, investors, venture capitals, large corporate organizations, and we believe that this is the future, that we all have to work together in ecosystems. So let's just look forward. We think that smart and sustainable buildings are a part of the revolution that we will create, but it depends on how we act now during the crisis. So let's talk about this and workshop it out during the next 30 to 35 minutes. And I'm really looking forward to your opinions. What's happened in the crisis with your business, and what do you have as an outlook for the upcoming Green Deal in the next year? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Benedikt, for an interesting introduction to the topic. Very interesting, crisis as challenge or opportunity for a change. During this think tank session, we would also like to integrate our audience into the discussion. So we have prepared a few questions for you. So to start off, I would like to ask our audience how they react to the crisis regarding sustainability. Next to the session screen, you can see the interactive chat and poll box from Slido. Slido is the name of the tool we are asking questions with. So please click on the poll to answer the first question. Yes, and so while we are waiting for our audience to answer the question, I would be also interested how our experts see this. Benedikt, you have prepared some questions for our experts.
Yeah. So we had a short view into the past, the present, and the future. But at the beginning, let's focus on actual challenges and what affected us over the last 2 months. So my question to Kristofer is, what are your actual challenges at ecoworks? Before Corona, you were lucky enough, or let's call it destiny, that you got 5 million in a seeding round, and you are operating with building renovation, a long needed future investment. We just feel it's a part of the Green Deal. And we talked a lot about the last decades that renovation is the next big thing, or we should do this in the building sector. So what's your view, Kristofer, on your business and the actual situation?
Yeah, so basically, as we are a startup that runs a lot of our infrastructure in the cloud, it was very easy for us to immediately switch to home office, work remotely. And compared to some of our customers who are long-standing real estate companies, especially the smaller ones that have 50, 80 employees that are very focused on office work and maybe have desktop computers, we were very easy able to keep on working. We're getting influenced by Corona in terms of the readiness to make decisions. So a lot of companies are now hesitant to make investment. They will want to first understand how everything plans out. They want to have a better understanding of what's going to happen to them before they decide that they want. Maybe they can keep standing for 1, 2, 3 years longer. And then on the other hand, what impacts us is the question of access to buildings. So when you think about these old school multifamily homes built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, small flats, 50 square meters, a lot of them are being inhabited by retired people, older people. And for us, it's a bit of a tough decision if we want to enter those buildings because we need information, we need to see the place, or we need to get inside to do refurbishment work. And then we expose them potentially to the virus. So it's not only a legal question, but also an ethical question if you can do refurbishments at the current time of Corona. And that led us to very early on have discussions with our customers and agree on moving the operational work to later parts of the year and then focus on planning now. But we're still able to work.
Okay, thank you. We will talk, I think we have to get deeper into the renovation topic later on, but let's pass on the next question to Philipp from Caala. Your company is cooperating with ecoworks. We learned this during our talks before the session. But on the other hand, you are offering energy consulting and software solution for sustainable life cycle buildings. So you are kind of first in a row to be affected by the crisis, consultancy and perhaps investments which won't be part anymore of for the next half a year. So what offered Corona for you as a company and your challenges you have to do with it?
I would say in a way it's quite similar to what Kristofer has pointed out. So we have the advantage that a lot of the analysis we do, they can be done from remote. So simply based on an address and some basic information about a building, we can already give some really interesting insights about the renovation potential and so on. So we're actually turning it around and we're making it an advantage that with our digital solutions, we do not need to necessarily be in the building, at least in this initial first step. So we rather focus on a larger scale, on a portfolio level, identifying the buildings that then later on you definitely need to have people on site to go into the building, but focus on the aspects that can be done digital from remote and focus on those parts. So yeah, we rather try to focus on the things that can be done really well, and we do see a higher, say, openness to try out these kind of new approaches because the way it has been done in the past is currently not doable or is tougher to realize, and so therefore automatically the industry has to look for different approaches. And so in a way, this is supporting our goal of having a paradigm shift to do more of the consulting digital and in an automated way as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, interesting view on this topic. We also will discuss later on it again, because I think, yeah, you always have to change your view on the industry and how we will all work together. So a pretty interesting input. And well, let's go on, so everybody can make his opinion about the actual, or his contribution to the actual situation. Felix from ParkHere. Your company is bringing building operations together with mobility solutions. So Corona showed us that the long-needed change of mobility system is possible, but kind of a hard way. So the car parks are empty. People try to use individual mobility solutions instead of public transport or sharing options. So isn't this situation kind of a threat for your business model?
Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's super interesting what right now is happening. Right now, most of our customers do not have any cars in their car parks. And we have something like a home office barometer, so we can see exactly how the people are doing. So how many of our customers are in home office. And we can see, which is pretty nice, some increase in the usage of parking space, means also some increase in usage of the building. And like you said it already, so right now no one is parking, but everyone is afraid of using public transportation and also shared vehicles. So the trend will be that when the office operation will start again, people like to park their cars. And the most companies, they do not have enough spaces for all their employees. And what we as a company offering is like that we are sharing parking spaces. So in the short term, of course, it's not easy for our sales to make business, but everyone is thinking about, okay, how are we going to get out of this, and how are we organizing the car park, but also the shared desks. So a lot of companies are combining now the booking of desks and also the booking of the parking space. And this is what helps us in a big way. And yeah, so from an operational side, in the team, we do not have any issues because the whole team is super international and a lot of people working remotely all the time. And from a business side, I expect quite a big growth and more requests than before the crisis for our solutions.
So here, like the digitalization and the change in or the open-mindedness for digitalization is really like yeah, something positive for your work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And this is also people started to change their behavior because they started working from home, and now is the chance somehow also to change their behavior, how they get to work. And this is something we like to do. So we like that people can share their spaces, but in the long term, we like also to offer them alternatives. So by reducing the amount of parking spaces, for example, the next couple of years in every company, and offering alternative solutions, which are also Corona functional, we can also get this nice atmosphere on the streets and in the cities, which we have right now without traffic, also in the future.
Okay, thank you. So Nathanie, we have the first results of our first question. So we have 40 participants. Yeah.
I was actually thinking about another first question, but this is an interesting one as well. So the question was, which of the following measures does your company take to react to the new requirements due to the Corona crisis? And interestingly, 57% of the audience said focusing on the company's own development and new product services is the measurement they take during the Corona crisis. So the other options were, of course, joining a network, an innovation network, or also increased focusing on the cooperation. And I actually would have thought that it's going to be more like going in that direction, that we have to put our focus more on this cooperation. But it's interesting, of course, in a crisis, it's vital to concentrate on their own products. It would also be interesting, of course, to see how our audience is, and if those are more corporates or more startups joining us today. But the question is, maybe does this answer surprise you, Pablo? Would you have expected this answer?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did expect this. But I hope that when people focus on their internal development of new products and services, I hope that they try to do it with pleasure and have some fun in doing innovation. And I think it's even better to innovate with others. More people to the party is a better party. And I can't see that behind this particular sentence. Innovation is cool, innovation is good. Glad to do so, and please do it. Obviously, with thinking a bit about the costs that are involved with innovation. But when the going gets tough, invest in energy, invest in yourself, invest in your product. And the best way to do that is to do that with others. And if you can't reach out to others, to external parties, then at least do it with a lot of energy internally. But as people normally say, never waste a good crisis. And I would like to extend that with never waste a good crisis, with throwing a great party and innovate and come better out of it. So,
yeah, thank you, Pablo. Yeah, I'm also a little bit surprised, but I think if you go deeper into this, as you said, own development of new products and services, it's never done without partners. So perhaps at the end we need networks and corporates, but we can discuss this a little bit later. But well, hand over to Caroline, last but not least. Caroline, you're the sustainability experts. So what was your first reaction at Union Invest to the crisis? And perhaps did you also react like this and said, okay, we focus on our own development with our company, or do you go into networks with that crisis?
Okay, now I'm on. So, well, of course, these are hard times right now, and I understand also the answers to the questions from the audience. So at Union Investment, we are really having the long time view and also focusing on our sustainability strategy for more than 10 years right now. So we always have this long-term perspective and focusing on long-term goals. We had different crises in the past, and we have to manage it, and it's not the best way to say, okay, we stop all investments and just waiting until it's slowing down. No, we say, okay, we move forward. Of course, we check where it's really necessary to do savings, but on the other hand, we invest further and really stick to our sustainability plans. And what I definitely can underline as well is that we need the exchange, the cooperation with our stakeholders, with the startups to be able to get sustainability in the branch, in the sector. It's just like a teamwork, and we need to focus on this.
Okay, thank you. When in the first talks before, we talked about energy management, what you want to introduce and your cooperation with startups. Can you just add them some sentence about this? Because I think that's a good start into the next discussion. How can we cooperate, and how are like the old industry and the corporates are working together with startups?
So our goal is to implement energy monitoring by 2025 or even earlier in all our buildings, and as an important part of our Manage to Green strategy to be carbon neutral by 2050 or even earlier with all our buildings. So during my energy monitoring project, which just started some month ago, I was in discussions and conversations with a lot of startups, and on the one hand, they were really like brilliant ideas concerning how to make a building more smart with talking about the different sensor technologies, also like having smart self-learning, self-managing buildings. And on the other hand, we had the status quo when looking at our existing buildings, where we have the status of a few and analog meters. We have a smart, less or even no digital infrastructure. We sometimes do not even have a building management system available. So to be fair, a lot of the existing buildings aren't ready to start being smart. So what I really found out is that a lot of the buildings, they need to have the preconditions for smartness and also for our energy monitoring, for example. So we really started at the basis with installing digital meters for the main energy consumption points, and then slowly moving to the way of getting sensors, of having a really smart self-managing building. So we are really at the status quo and slowly moving forward to it. And what I think is that startups and corporates maybe should meet halfway, challenging the status quo together. We have the really brilliant ideas, the smart minds, the agility and the fresh ideas from the startups, and on the other hand, the challenging status quo from the corporates, the process knowledge. And I think we really could learn from each other and get to each other with new ideas.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting, because we talked about well, the Green Deal or the renovation wave with the setting in now, and I think we also have to always make small steps forward, but don't lose the view to the horizon and what we want to achieve together. And so we have another question for the poll, or exactly. for the audience.
Yeah, and the question is, what is your company's attitude to the European Green Deal and sustainability in general in the Corona crisis? So you can answer the question now. Just as I've said before, on the right side, you will see the poll. Just click on it, the Slido sign, and you can answer the question.
Yeah, thank you, Nathanie. So the next question again, we start from the beginning. Kristofer, we just talked about renovation and setting up old buildings and challenging with so startups challenging also with the old industry. So what's your opinion? What does to have to change that your business model is getting into the next step? You're adapting something from the Netherlands, but it's very innovative. And we need a renovation wave. So what do you think where has to be the cooperation and the platforms?
Well, I think that even though we are now very much in focus of what's happening through Corona, not the question of how do we manage the energy transition hasn't changed. It's still there. We still have to get rid of all the carbon emitting heating devices. We still have to make sure the buildings reduce the energy consumption from the grid and have more self-consumption from their own production on site. So that keeps and stays an open discussion, an open topic to solve. The question now is, how do we put it into regulation? We've seen a lot of talk about how do we have carbon fees in the future, and are they going to be able to be forwarded to the tenant? So does the tenant have to pay the extra price for the gas or not? Is it going to be sticking to the building owner? And I think what we need is very much a lot of clarity on how the regulation is going to come into effect in the near future. So even though everybody is focused on how do we fight Corona, we can't let slip that in the beginning of the next year we're going to have regulation on carbon pricing, and that's still not being finished as far as I understand it. So finishing that, making clear paths for startups to act on is important. And then when it comes to how do we act together with the corporates, it also means for them that they need to be open to try things and to talk to different players, run pilots. Don't get into talking about large framework contracts for 2 years before signing a first one and then doing the first project. Just do small pilots, learn from each other. And then it might be that some of these pilots don't work out. It's not a good partnership, but that's okay. But you learn a lot faster if you just try and go for it.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think that's a different. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Nathanie.
Yeah, it's a different kind of mindset. I think corporates and startups, they communicate differently, and it's surely also a challenge. It has maybe not as much to do with the current crisis as other topics, but it is a topic, and this is something what Carloin also said before. There are these very good solutions on the market, although we from the other side see the very good technology, very innovative, but is this the reality? Can we really start a project right now? And on the other hand, for startups, maybe the very slow moving corporates making decisions, and which is just a natural thing, I think. The bigger the company, the longer it takes to make these decisions. What could be a solution? Maybe Felix, Philipp, what are your experiences with this? What is that? Where could corporates really support you better, or what is that? What would help you?
What we see, especially in the mobility sector, and not in the real estate sector, but in the mobility sector in smart cities, for example, that so many cities making pilots, small numbers, and it takes years. So setting up a pilot takes 1 year, setting up, then running the pilot takes another year, and then coming to a final conclusion takes another year. So it's like 3 years until the startup gets somehow a feedback if the solution could be expanded to the whole city. And I see somehow the same in the real estate business, because those customers are really big. And I think it's really important that not everyone is making with every startup a pilot. It's enough if someone is doing this. For example, also a consultancy like DREES SOMMER, and they prove that the technology is working, that the company is a good one, everything is working fine, and then help the startups to get directly into the growth phase, because otherwise those startups, they are dying because they cannot show any revenues to their investors, and then they just have a lot of small pilots which costing a lot of money, and on the other side time just moves, and it's like I said, 3 years after, and you're not sure if this technology will be bought by the company. So I think especially real estate companies, you can just do it, just try it out in a first pilot, and then also take the risk that it's going to fail.
Okay, thank you. I think pretty interesting the different views you have, like run small, fast pilots, and also don't run pilots too often, because otherwise we will run out of money at a startup. So Philipp, what are your experiences with testing your software, testing your consultancy? Is there also always like the mindset that startups first have to prove on a small amount of money that they can do it, or is there a bigger trust in the different services you're offering?
Yeah, so I mean, I would agree to most of the points that have just been made. One of the reasons we actually are offering this consulting service is because it's a great way for us to learn and make money along the way when we're learning. So we initially started out completely with a software solution, but then quite fast we learned that at least not all the actors in the market are ready for a completely digital solution, and we therefore offered service around it. Now, what the service is allowing us, as I said, is make money along the way learning. So we do projects which we not call pilot projects, but we sell consulting service and we learn from them. But we also do pilot projects, and they're crucial because they're so crucial. Carolina just explained it, I think, really well. On the one hand, you have startups coming up with a new technology, maybe a really idealistic point of view on how things are, and then reality hits them, because then you realize what is actually the data availability, which in case of renovation projects is usually really little. So if you talk to a portfolio manager, quite often it's a black box kind of. There's no digital twins, little data about the building envelope and so on. So it's so crucial, I believe, to have these pilots to learn on both sides what data exists, how do the solution technologies need to be adapted, but then also give the startups a second chance to adapt the solution and try it again and try it again and try it again, and not expect like a perfect result from the first time on. So it's a kind of a co-development or co-innovation process that I believe, yeah, also the larger corporations need to be willing to do, because only in that way we get great technology that is actually taking the data and the market really into account.
I also believe that the general pilots are super important to learn and then to kind of re-improve the product or the solution. So I totally agree to this point. In a lot of pilots, I see that the impact is not really measurable. So of course you can somehow go from this pilot and think about, okay, what is going to happen on the environment? What is going to happen on the behavior if we put this in large scale? But you never know exactly. And so this is what I wanted to say, is that of course first pilot is important to prove that the product is ready and the solution is the right one, but then be bold to improve this solution to a larger scale, to really measure the impact and to really get the feedback that this is going to change, and it's a game changer for a smart building, for example.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we just see the results of the last questions, and that's what we expected as our answer, kind of, when you thought about the question. So that there's increased focus on sustainability as the crisis is a catalyst for the topic, and all your products are also paying into sustainability development of mobility, of renovation, of building new buildings. So I think that's pretty good. And new focus on sustainability is also like kind of on the list for our audience, because the crisis offers an opportunity to realign. So Caroline, just to give it over to you as an expert again, I think we expected this. How will you act on this for the future? As you said, energy management, but is there what else will be done in this direction?
So we have our, as I already mentioned, our Manage to Green strategy in place for more years right now, and the goal is to be carbon neutral by 2050 or even earlier. So energy monitoring, as I said, is one big part. Is like the basis to see really transparent what energy consumption is in the buildings. We have different tools in place, like the sustainable investment check. We also have a sustainable scoring model called Atmosphere, where we check, okay, where are the energy levels in our buildings? What is the quality, the sustainable quality of the buildings? Also paying attention to social aspects. And we also have the renovation part, the modernization part, which is also a really big basis to get the buildings more sustainable and, of course, more smart.
Okay, thank you. And Pablo, I know that you're very critical with the crisis, and as you said before, you want to have a party. Is this a party investment into sustainability in the future? So over the next half year or next year, we have the crisis coming up.
First of all, I would like to have a party when you have the ability to do so and when you start investing. So foremost, I know that this crisis brings a lot of sad news to a lot of people. So keep that in mind. I'm not wanting to change that or change the perspective on that. I think what the crisis brought us all is a change of perspective. There where we thought, living in Germany or in the Netherlands or wherever in Europe, we thought we were safe to walk on the street, to talk to other people. And within days or weeks, our perspective changed, that it became dangerous to talk to people directly. Our perspective changed, that what can our hospitals do? How developed is our developed world? Can we handle it? What if you would live in Italy? And I think one of the things that the crisis brings into the ecosystem of the real estate sector, and also the ecosystem of the business sector, is that things are going to change. The perspective to who's got what role will definitely change. We were talking about the role of startups versus the traditional corporates, but I think that a company like Union Investment will become a VC as well. Will want to integrate a startup mentality in its business, just like the startup companies that are now that have won this prize today will invest in research, will become consultants, will share their knowledge and insights. And just talking about myself and Madaster, Madaster is a startup on the one hand side, but on the other hand side, we are seen as an established firm with respect to how to register materials and products in the built environment, just because this never was being done a couple of years ago. So I think that this crisis is going to stimulate us to change the perspective, and that I'm not going to mention the party thing again, but I think that this changing the perspective is something that we should give it a thought about. What is your role? How can you contribute to making this world better, not only from a health perspective, but also from a resource or energy consumption perspective, and obviously also being an entrepreneur? Because a crisis means that we have to work under pressure, we have to deal with uncertainties, and if you thought that you could deal that you were free of all that uncertainty and troubles because you work for a big corporate, say goodbye to that situation. Right now, everybody needs to be aware of that we have to work under pressure with uncertainty. And yes, that's not always comfortable, but there are lots of chances as well. And sometimes it's good to change perspective.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, and thank you for the input. So that I think sometimes in a situation under pressure, you act faster and you act perhaps more into the future and more to results, and not really like, okay, what's strategic important now. So we're nearly at the end of our session now, so I want to do a little wrap up with you together and just asking for a short answer for everybody now. Kristofer,
just a quick question. We started it. I think it's Pablo already said his wishes or his thoughts about the future and the future of smart and sustainable. We also asked our last question from the audience, so you can I think still answer. Describe, please, what you would like to see in the field of smart and sustainable buildings in the future. It would be really interesting to see your answers. Okay.
So just for ask you for short answers because of the time, but for Kristofer, you first again, the biggest challenge for you and what will be the solution? So you don't have a lot of time to think about. Sorry for that.
Yeah. No. Kristofer.
Kristofer, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm muted. So trying to ask quickly, I think it will bring a lot of change even to the consumer level. People will care more about what kind of building they're living in, and it's important that companies who supply living space will take that in mind, like what can I offer to tenants in the future to a changed world?
Okay. Felix?
I would say the biggest challenge is to get somehow the regulations which are coming from the government, the incentives which we can give to companies or give to employees or tenants to get this under one scope. So to get in somehow in a good time the whole city together with the whole buildings smart and sustainable. And this I think is really difficult, and therefore it needs a lot of conversations between big corporates, between real estate companies, of course, between cities, but also of course between startups. And everyone have to get out of his own position and trying to understand the others, and then define a big vision, and then just do it.
Okay, thank you. Philipp?
Yeah, so I do see the risk that in time of crisis, people draw back the innovation activities. And so I really wish for people and companies still to be bold, take risk, learn fast, invest in knowledge by working with the startups and yeah, using the crisis as opportunity. It hopefully is. Yeah, and still go on bold and have this entrepreneurial mindset that Pablo just mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Caroline?
So I think the challenge is also like meeting the requirements from the regulation point of view, having all our stakeholders like tenants, depositors on board and online with us to fight against the climate crisis and protect the climate. So, but I think it's also really a good opportunity to use this shutdown, as we also see that sustainability is positive in a way to change our habits, and I think we should take it as an impulse to have a sustainable economy and focus on it and stick to our sustainability plans.
Thank you. Pablo?
Yeah, very short. Three statements. First of all, become or stay connected. Become or stay transparent. Become or stay healthy.
Okay, thank you. I didn't expect that you will answer that short. I'm very glad about this. Thank you very much. And so here, describe what you would like to see in the field of smart and sustainability things in the future, and some inputs. I see a lot of ESG. I think that's very important. Smart data, climate neutrality, cradle to cradle, net zero housing. So I think we're on the right way, and the ESG and EU taxonomy Green Deal is coming up, and all the participants here in this talk and workshop, they have a solution, and so I think that's pretty interesting. Thank you for your input.
Thank you so much for participating. It was great to discuss with you. Bye.